Giovanni, let's start with you. You have a special talent for getting people to stand up, take notice, and take action with what you do. Let me give you the floor and tell us how we need to follow what you're doing for everybody else. And by the way, this guy has come on the scene and has more people following what he does on our archives than anybody else in a shorter period of time than anything I've ever seen. And I've done this a time or two. Take it away, Giovanni.
Well, howdy. So the last few weeks we've been talking about Facebook and the things that have popped up around Facebook and the organic content on the network. And so that kind of moves us into an area of now what do we do about it, right?
Yeah.
So and one thing I want to kind of set up ahead of time is that there are not any single kind of practice within digital marketing that you need to be focusing on. You need to have a healthy kind of a potpourri of different things that you do in digital marketing to make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. And certainly the thing I'm going to talk about today is a long-term strategy. So let's say that you've already got and one of the first things you always want to have set up is your email marketing. You know, you've got your basic social media stuff where you're kind of doing customer service. You're telling the world about, what you're doing as a business. You're talking to fans that are on your social media stuff, and then you're doing things like search engine optimization and all that other stuff, right? So when we talk about organic content, specifically on Facebook, but this applies to everywhere, it is going to be more and more critical for us in the future for us to have other people talk about our brand. Now, we've always aspired to that, right? We always understand the benefit of having word of mouth marketing. Well, before the internet, word of mouth marketing was an entire industry where companies focused on getting neighbors to share with neighbors things about the brands that they used every day, right? Because we understand how much more powerful having a recommendation from Michael Yorba, who I hang out with once a week and I talk to on the radio. If you come to me and tell me about a product or service, I'm going to give that much more weight and much more authority than if I see it on a billboard on the freeway, right? So that translates really well into the online world. So one of the key things that I've kind of specialized in working in digital media is not necessarily buying ads for folks, not doing the email stuff, which I do that on the periphery. The main thing I do for people is get brands positioned in the marketplace where the fans are doing the vast majority of the heavy lifting for them in the branding. So let's take an example. Let's say we've got what's really one of the hot industries I work in right now is the beverage industry. So we're talking about everything from kombucha to cold brew coffees to mineral waters to all kinds of organic drinks and things like that. One of the things that I focus on is I will take a brand and I will have them say, okay, we're going to focus on a single social media site for a year, or for a point to where we hit a goal, and we're going to focus on a single industry focused on that on that social media site. So just pulling a number out of the air, we may say we're going to measure success at 10,000 followers on Facebook, but we want those followers to be highly engaged in what we're doing. And we want them to be deeply entrenched in the industry. So if I go in and I say I take the fashion industry, if I want my product, my beverage, to be served up at all the biggest events in say New York Fashion Week or all the satellite fashion weeks that happen around the country, but I don't want to pay for that access, I don't want to be a sponsor, it's really important for us to position this brand where the parties that are happening, that the organizers from those parties are calling us to have the brand position there so that they get the brand lift of being associated with us. Long story short, what we do is we start focusing on the people inside that industry that nobody cares about, but the people that make the wheels of that industry go. So if we're looking at the fashion industry, I will look at production assistants, I'll look at makeup artists, I'll look at all the people that set up the shows, I will look at the folks that are the engineers and the music and sign. All these people work together within the same industry. So you may find someone who focuses on DJs, who only puts DJs inside the biggest events in a local city area. You don't want to only focus on the actual DJ because those people can be pseudo celebrities themselves. I want to go to the company that books those people, and I want to ship them on a monthly basis a regular shipment of products so they have it in their office. And this is why. That company is the hub of all the spokes that make up the industry, everybody congregates at that company. That could be a PR organization or it could be an events promotions company. So when they're walking into that company, they have my product there to serve these people. It becomes a part of their natural environment. So without me, giving too many specifics about how I do this with each individual client, essentially what ends up happening is if you focus on that, you focus on, say, in our example, the fashion industry, event promotions companies, you focus on the folks that book the music for those events. You can focus on the folks that run the trucks and the shipping delivery services. They will start seeing that product everywhere, and it's a part of their industry they see every day. That will then start migrating itself over into the events themselves. And the first one I started doing this with, we saw a change from taking that focus to folks inside the industry to 8 months later. We had venues calling us at our corporate offices asking where to get the products because people that were going to events of that products who had VIP rooms or green rooms things, they would have within their contracts a requirement that this product was in the contract, and it was in a market that we didn't even service yet. And within 12 months, so 4 months after that first call when we were getting multiple calls per week in markets that we didn't even have a footprint in. So we've been able to do that, and it's pretty consistent. I mean, the timeline on that is typically 6 to 8 months. We start getting folks calling us that are the folks that we actually want to get access to. The first brand I worked with this on, after working with them for 5 years, we've now been put in over 24 motion pictures, brand placement without having to pay for it. We've been put in about a dozen television shows, again, brand placement that we didn't have to pay for. And we've got associations with real network folks that connect people within these real industries that then turn around and they're the tastemakers for the industry. So I've got products sitting on the biggest stages in the world at the biggest events in the world that we don't pay access to get to, but then they end up on those folks' social media accounts, which means their fans want to be associated with that product because their heroes and the people they aspire to be are drinking that product as well. And I've got 3 different brands with 3 different case studies that almost kind of model that process. So the biggest thing that I can recommend to people when they start a program like this is you've got to start off and be super disciplined about the fact that I'm not going to go out there and launch 5 social media platforms. Go ahead and if you've already got them, go ahead and hang on to them and pay attention to them. But your laser focus has to be on the one platform that makes sense to you, and your decision about what that platform is your decision to make. Then you need to focus on a single industry that makes sense for where the most attractive consumers are for your business, right? So we get those 2 things locked in place, and until you hit that, and let's say your mark is 10,000 followers, until you hit that 10,000 mark, you stay the course. One of the biggest problems I have working with clients is they come up with some number out of thin air that they need to achieve by some date out of thin air that they need to achieve it by. And then when they don't reach that date, whether it's realistic or not, and when they don't reach that goal, they scrap it and try something else. And so one of the biggest things you have to do is you have to know that you're on the right path. You need to see that the numbers are going in the right direction. But you also have to look at this thing and say, look, if I want to do something for my business that's going to benefit me in 5 years, not in 5 weeks, then you've got to be mature and disciplined about the fact that you've got to start something that has some meaning behind it, and you've got to stick to it and be disciplined. And in most of these situations, we've broken these out into other industries and other social networks, right? So it's not a case that you just focus on that and you walk away. You achieve that goal that you want to achieve, you maintain it, and then you move to the next industry and the next social network site, and you repeat it, and you take what you learned from the first one, and then you do it on the second one, and you'll learn some new stuff. You grow, and then you move to the next one.
Wow, great. That was wonderful stuff, Giovanni. All right, Giovanni, thanks for being a guest on the show, and love to hear that information. That was brilliant. All right, segment brought to you by Gallucci.net. That was Giovanni Gallucci. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba and Ed Baxter. Don't forget, it's all on podcast. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Jared Fabriello, JPF Securities Law. We'll be right back.